my 2011 GMC Terrain with, hold on, we got to get past the low air pressure warning. That one too, and that one. Don't worry about that. Ignore that. There it is, 218,000 miles on the car. It's on engine number 2. So as you can probably hear, we got a little bit of an exhaust leak going on, and I was worried that it was one thing up here, which it's been in the past, but it looks like it's actually going to be down here. See the hole there? I think that's going to be our problem. And I've also been kicking some codes on some O2 sensors and the cat codes. So we're just going to put new catalytic converters, O2 sensors on. And maybe, just maybe, now this is nice. If I have time today, let's see, somewhere I've got, oh, there it is. I've got a catch can. If I got time, I'll try to get that catch can on today too. And on this engine, I think it'd be pretty beneficial. I ended up getting what was the cheapest I could find on eBay for the upstream and downstream cats, but they don't look bad for the price. Welds look okay, and you can see inside the flange there. Penetration looks good, and they actually have a catalytic converter in there. I was a little surprised by it. For the price, it's in there. It's in there. Pipe's pretty thick. Doesn't seem bad. We'll see how she fits up here in just a second. Kind of want to eyeball it, make sure it looks. Yeah. Well, that looks like she ought to work fine. And it did come with a new clamp to go right here as well. So we'll probably just break that one off because that always seems to be the easiest way. Let's see if we can't get that pipe out. It might come loose, but 9 times out of 10, I just think it's easier to break. Oh, she actually came loose and didn't break. Well, if that's the case, let me put a little lube on her. We'll run her out. Guess I'm out of penetrating oil. I got some fluid film. I know there's some people that are hollering at me to go grab that 1/2-inch impact I have, but I'm kind of trying to do this with just hand tools today. Just to illustrate that you don't have to have fancy tools, you know? Just a good old flex head breaker bar and you'll be fine. Really don't even need to take it all the way off. You can just kind of back the nut to here and beat it and loosen that up, but you know, here we are. See what I mean? Well, you don't have to take that nut all the way off. You just got to get it out enough to get her loose. But because we're broken right there, we kind of have the luxury we don't have to mess with these bolts. We just got to get that out of the isolator, or hanger, whatever you want to call it. A little lube goes a long way on those. There we go. Remember I said it was kicking some cat codes? Could be part of the problem. So for the downpipe, whatever you want to call it, we got to come from the top side. The exhaust, well, let's just show you. The exhaust manifold comes down. Take the intake and everything off here. There's just 2 hose clamps, one here and one on the bottom side of this. Had this thing off a lot to clean that throttle body. It gunks up pretty quick on this engine. 2.4 has some pretty serious issues. The 2.2 was its predecessor, and then this was like when they were trying to do all the fuel mileage stuff. So they made a few changes to it. And from what I understand, they had decent luck with it in other vehicles. But for some reason in the all-wheel drive Terrain, the 2.4 just was plagued with problems. And I don't know a lot about a lot of cars, but I know a lot about this one because I pretty much paid for it twice at this point. And I can't tell you how many times I've had this area apart trying to keep this thing going. Throttle body looks pretty clean right now. I did it about a month ago. Okay, I gotta take this bracket off if I remember correctly. There's no way I'm the only one that has to check lefty-loosey on the ratchet before I use it. And parking brake is on, by the way. There's one. Two. Same length. And then the upstream O2 sensor is on that. Last time I did this, I just pulled this one. I left that one on. Unhooked the sensor. And then I could swing the whole thing out of the way. And then I gotta get this heat shield. Should be 1, 2, 3. Be third one somewhere. There it is. 1, 2, 3. I gotta get that off next. This is just a good reminder. This isn't a how-to. I'm not a mechanic. I'm just a fella that can't afford one, so I work on my own stuff. Shade tree style. I mean, we got an old rocket can for my step stool, so I can get up here comfortably. All right, we're not professionals here. We're just trying to survive. Now, if I remember correctly, last time I did this, there's a hole in the back, and it gets caught up on this, I lost a crock. It gets caught up on the O2 sensor. If I remember correctly, it's easier to try to take that O2 sensor out to get this thing out. We might just try the old force it. Yeah. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, all right. Worth a shot. So they make these. They're super inexpensive. I got this off Amazon's for O2 sensors. They're worth every penny. If you're going to do an O2 sensor, I'd get you one. You can use a crow's foot if you can get it down on there, but I've always found these to be easiest. And I don't know. I cut the wires off top so I didn't have to fight them. But obviously you don't have to. They just make it so much easier. It's got to come out a very specific way. Oh man. Dad. So there is a very common problem with these engines. And I didn't think that's what it was because I was looking at where I saw that broken part. I was like, oh, well, that's it. Nope, it is also a crocked? No, that's what I'm wearing. It's a cracked exhaust manifold. Oh, neat. That is super. Give it the old spin. Out she comes. But let me poke you down there. Right there. That is a pretty common problem on the 2.4 on these Terrains for some reason. All right, so I went ahead and I had to go through O'Reilly's this time. Normally I go through a local mom and pop store. The downfall of mom and pop stores is they're normally not open on the weekends. And today's Saturday and I gotta be at work on Monday, so I can't get this off. So I gotta get this done this weekend. So I went to O'Reilly's. They're gonna have it in tomorrow. Slightly concerning when he said, which one do you need? Because there's only one on here, but we'll see how that turns out. Which means we'll go ahead and drop that down tube, which is 1, 2, and there should be a third one. I don't know if you can see it right here. And then there's a cross member we got to take off underneath as well to get that down and out of the way. You guys doing? You guys having a good day? Having a good day? I hope so. I hope so. I think, is it? Nope. No. This will be the third exhaust manifold on this car, by the way, in 212,000 miles, and on the second engine. This will be the third exhaust manifold. Neat. Very neat. Down below we go. So underneath, this cross member here comes out. Surprisingly, the underside of this thing is pretty rust free. Seeing that we live in Indiana and they love their salt here. This may hit you when it falls, and I apologize. Oh, mister. Lucky you. This is the last bolt that has to come off. It's right here. I don't know if you can make it out. Right up in there. I found that an extension from back here is the best way, or works for me anyway. Is that right? Left. Oh yeah, that's good. We're good. It should have a welded nut on the back side, I believe. Oh, she feels like she's gonna break. Let's not. Let's not. It's just, let's exercise her a little bit, you know. Oh, what happened? Did it break? No, I slipped. Okay, we're okay. Before we undo that, I'm going to try to reach up here and undo this wiring harness. There we go. For the O2 sensor on there. You come off there. There we go. How the heck's that fella get out of there? Did I have to take that heat shield off there too? Listen, I'm not a mathematician, but I don't think this is gonna fit. I don't remember doing this last time, but you see that little heat shield? I guess I gotta take that heat shield off to get it to clear the rest of the way. Because we've got a slight clearance issue. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull this exhaust manifold off. And I'm thinking I might be able to bring that cat up through the top. Maybe that was their plan, you know? You just gotta change the manifold every time you change the cats. We're feeling. Been able to get a ratchet and socket on all these so far, except for this one. Luckily, I splurged on some ratcheting wrenches the other day. And this is the one-click special. Can you hear it? Oh. No, now we're getting like 4 or 5 clicks. That's luxury there, bud. Finger action going. That's it. You can see cracked all the way around, followed right along that bung for the O2 sensor, jumped down to that bolt, goes all the way through, and it's just now started to crack there, but it was well on its way. Well on its way to cracking out to that one. Took that O2 sensor out and it came right up top. Looks like we got some cracks around that weld too. That weld was done whenever they put the replacement engine in. They didn't put this bolt back in, and within like 500 miles that whole thing broke off. So they just welded it back on. Whatever. At that point I was done with the project. I was done with dealing with it. It's lasted 50,000 miles or so, I guess. is a catalytic converter. It's supposed to be. But there's nothing in there. There's nothing in here. When do you think? This is the upstream. I mean, there's no way that that cat would break up enough that it would make it out. Would it? You don't think that whenever the dealership welded this up, no, they wouldn't have gutted the inside of it, would they? It wasn't the most pleasant experience of my life. Surely not, right? Surely they didn't. Is that real life? So this weld I'm talking about, whenever they put the replacement engine in, they didn't put this bolt in, and like within 500 miles, it broke right here. It sounded like a demolition derby car. It was hilarious, and I drove it into the dealership. So they said, do you care? Well, actually, first they said they weren't going to fix it. They weren't responsible for that bolt not being in. But after a stiff conversation with the owner of the dealership, they agreed that they would send it down to the muffler shop and just have it welded back on, and I was fine with that. I'm just trying to figure out why the dang thing's empty, you know? Alright, so we got the new one. Bolt patterns and everything. Looks like it matches up. I'm noticing on the aftermarket one, they've got cuts right here, and I'm wondering if that's a way to try to allow this to move differently when it heats up and cools off to try to prevent that cracking. And I also noticed they cast theirs a little bit different. You can see how that one is. And on this one, it's quite a bit beefier up around that bung for that O2 sensor. So I'm wondering if they just did a few things different to try to prevent that. This is a Dorman, and this should be, it is the third one, but I've been using OEM. So that should be an OEM, that should be a GM. Just kind of driving by feel here. What?
Nothing. Just happened.
Oh gosh. All right, we got her started. I'll meet you when we start torquing them. I got one left. I don't know where it's at. It's not there. I also gotta make sure I'm not putting an extra nut on any of these studs on accident. All right. Should be all of them. Grab my torque wrench. We'll get her going. It's gonna be a little tricky get a torque wrench on all of these, but I think I can get them. That one I had to use the actual wrench on. The way this one's cast, I can get a socket on it. There it goes. How's it going? It's going good? It's going right here. It's super comfortable. Oh, one more. There it is. Okay. There we go. I thought these were going to be a little tougher to get to, but they haven't been too terrible, really. There it is. So that's 10 of them. Let me go count the old one to make sure there's actually 10 holes. Yep, 10 holes. 2 for each cylinder. 2, 4, 6, 8. And these 2 random ones. Or maybe it's 2, 4, 6, 8. And these random corner ones. Either way, 10 total. So next is this part. And this one is quite a bit thinner than that one. So it should slide up in there fine, shouldn't be an issue. But I am noticing, you can see there's a little piece of wire there yet too. It looks to me like they cut that tab off and re-welded that on to get it to work how they wanted. Now, I may have to do the same on this because that bracket on the bottom side has some hammer marks, so I'm guessing they beat it where they wanted it, bolted the tab on, and then welded it in place, and it was there. And I keep going back on this, and I just don't know how well you can see down in there. I've had catalytic converters come apart, come loose, like that one, like this one, right? Like they can break apart, they can come loose. So I'm 99%, and you can see down in there, that's still covered in soot. There's not fresh scratch marks. I didn't break that up and take it out myself and then film it. I'm 99% convinced what happened is whenever they went to weld everything up, they messed up the inside of that catalytic converter, and instead of telling me about it, they just gutted it out and then put it back in there, thinking, you know, I'd never know. That's my best guess. I have no way of proving that, and it's been years and tens of thousands of miles, but it didn't just disappear into thin air. Or several years and miles down the road at this point. Let me slide this up in here and we'll see if we can figure out what I need to do with this bracket to make it work. Oh yeah, she slides up in there real easy. And plenty of room for the O2 sensor, so that's good. Fits on that flange really well. And everything looks good on the bottom side. Where are you guys even looking? I'm over here. You guys, we're over here. Anyway, like I was saying, everything fits good except for that bracket. That'll work, and we can weld it wherever we need it. The harnesses, I always look at the harnesses. Normally the harnesses are different between the upstream and the downstream, and this should be the downstream. I'm sure there's a torque setting for this. I think it's right about there. And I'm just gonna take this, keep the rocks out of it. Oh, hold on. Hey, so I don't have to crawl back out, can one of you guys grab the little ring that goes in between this and the exhaust manifold? No? No, y'all say you always want to help. Oh, you guys still hanging out down here, huh? And I just put like a touch of grease on there so that when I put it in its home, it will hang out in there for me. Which we're going straight up, so it should, but there's a chance it might bounce out. But that way, it just kind of helps lock it in. And then I'll go ahead and just slide it through this isolator, or whatever you want to call it. Hanger, if you want to call it that. And that pretty much holds her in place for me. And I can get these bolts started. Go ahead and plug this in. They did send new bolts for everything, so that's nice. Oh yeah. Just gonna do everything finger tight until we get all the exhaust components attached to each other. Otherwise, for me anyway, if I tighten everything up, like if I went ahead and torqued these down, then I'd have a hard time getting the tail end of it lined up. And I just find it easier to get everything finger tight. That way I still got a little wiggle operation. Those all three are on there, finger tight. That's good. Worst part about the gravel is trying to keep it out of your pipes. Makes a neat rattle if you don't. I like to dump my bolts in the gravel, that way I can lose them real quick. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and snug these down how I want them. And then we can put the clamp down there. And then we can torque that top side. Helps if you get both in there. There we go. That's going to be a big improvement. There we go. All right, the little heat shield is next. Let me just spin her on there. Oh yeah. Now we can get that O2 sensor down in there. Shouldn't be too bad. Right in there, right on it. Oh. There we go. If you're doing O2 sensors, spend the money. If you got it. If you got it. If not, crow's foot wrench, cut your own socket. You know, run what you brung, you'll get it. And this bracket goes back on. No. What are you guys doing down there? So we should have everything on the top side, but now we're just down to this. So my plan is to bolt this bracket up just however we can get it bolted on there, and then we'll just weld it. Wherever it sits, we'll weld it. It definitely, oh dear, it definitely has to have this support. Remember, when I had the engine replaced, they didn't put that bolt in, and then, I mean, like 2 weeks later, that top weld that you saw they had to re-weld ended up breaking on me. So it's got to have it. It's important. I can't see. Can you guys see anything? Dark, like we're under the car or something. On the top side, how's that sit? Oh, that sits pretty good like that. I was hoping it'd be longer on the side, it'd be a little bit easier to get a weld on, but I think this will work fine. I did disconnect the battery, and I went ahead and did both sides. I put a glove over that terminal because it keeps trying to jump over where I don't want it, but that should keep it good. And then I got a little test spot on this piece of pipe. I'm gonna play around with my amps first before I crawl underneath. 3/32 on 7011. Nope, kidding, 7018. Topping off on my tires real quick too. They're all at like 20 something. They're supposed to be at 50 on these tires. Or around 50. Alright, so the battery died while I was welding, and I'm not trying to hide anything. Not clever editing or anything like that. I just, battery died. But here we are, all globbed on. You can see I got in a fight a few times. Just sticking all over the place, but we're globbed on there. It may not be perfect, but I think it'll do the job. And oil plug right here. So next time I change oil, I'll be able to peek underneath and make sure it's holding okay. And if it's not, we'll run it up to Mike's with the MIG welder and do it that way. It's kind of tough with a stick getting in here. MIG would be a little bit easier, but it's on there. I'm kind of out of time. It's evening and it's the weekend. We're trying to get ready for the meat birds. We just picked up some more ducks. We got some chickens we're working on hatching. We hatch our own chickens for that. And we got that stuff going on. You can check out my wife's channel, Wild Roots. All that stuff is on there. So we're trying to get everything organized and get ready for spring. And I just took the GX75 over and used it to mow the first time. No brakes, downhill real fast. Faster than it should, so that'll be good. But it did mow really strong. My point is I don't have time to do the oil catch cam. But I will say, if you have this 2.4 in the GMC Terrain, there's a ton of service bulletins and a ton of service policies and a ton of engines problems with this engine. So make sure you do your research and check it out. I think everything expires around 120,000 miles, but don't take my word for that. Look it up, because the dealer was not honest with us about a lot of things, as we are clearly learning still to today. So whatever they tell you, don't believe them. Look it up for yourself and push them to do the right thing. I will tell you real quick, the first engine we lost in this car was related to the PCV. It froze shut. It was just super cold. It froze shut. It couldn't release any of that pressure like it needed to, and it blew her at the rear main seal. It just kind of grenaded itself, lost all the oil, puked it all out pretty daggone quick, and that was it. She was toast. So then we got another one put in here. But hopefully with what we did today, she'll be good for at least another 3,000. All right. She sounds pretty good. Check engine light's gone. We could check for codes. No reason to look for trouble though, you know, we'll let her ride. I don't hear anything obvious like whistling or hissing or anything we're Exhaust is trying to escape anywhere, so it sounds pretty good. Not to say it doesn't show up after a little bit of driving one day, but for the time being, she sounds all right. She's gonna smell funny for a little bit. They always do. All the oil from the manufacturing processes on that metal, and it's got to get hot enough to burn all that off. But that's it. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be great. I promise you that.